United Nations General Assembly session, US President Donald Trump ranted, rambled on, and seemed to repeat the stop war claims, blamed India, China and Europe for the Russia war, and made several false claims. He fired at 5 targets, essentially. Former Presidents Biden, Obama, India, China and Sadiq Khan. Let's just decode Trump's speech at the UNGA, a 55-minute speech, by the way, starting off with the false claims. First of all, he said that he has stopped wars that would have killed millions and millions. Listen to this.
What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle, and then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
He listed conflicts between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Cambodia and Thailand, Israel and Iran, India and Pakistan, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Serbia and Kosovo. Quick fact check here. These deals are closer to ceasefires than peace agreements that permanently end generational disputes. And in the case of India and Pakistan, India has said time and again that it was the military leaders between the 2 sides that stopped the war. And we all know that the US President's team is scanning the globe, looking for fires to extinguish to claim quick wins for his campaign for a Nobel Peace Prize. And speaking of false claims, Trump also called climate change the greatest con job ever, quote unquote, alleging that the concept of carbon footprint was, quote unquote, a hoax. Throughout the speech, Trump denigrated clean energy projects in various countries as fruitless and part of what he called the Green New Scam. He said, and I'm quoting, climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion, quote unquote. Further saying, carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they are heading down a path of total destruction, quote unquote. Next, Donald Trump trained guns at the United Nations itself. He launched a sarcasm-laden broadside against the United Nations, saying the institution does not help peace, mocking the quality of the headquarters building as well. Listen to this.
Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities. Who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now.
In fact, then came the other issues. Without mentioning the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the US president pushed for Hamas to release hostages. He said that Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace, quote unquote. Briefly saying that, quoting further, we have to stop the war in Gaza immediately.
And India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products.
Let's also tell you how the US president said that the recognition by a slate of Washington's allies of a Palestinian state was what he called a reward for Hamas for horrible atrocities, quote unquote. But most importantly, Donald Trump launched a scathing attack at Europe for continuing to buy Russian oil and gas, declaring that he would not move to apply new punishment on Moscow for the war in Ukraine until they cut off their purchases. He said, and I'm quoting here, It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, quote unquote. Further saying, they have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time, quote unquote. European nations, in fact, have dramatically reduced their oil purchases from Russia since the war started, but continue to purchase natural gas. Two countries specifically, Hungary and Slovakia, now making up the bulk of the European purchases of Russian oil. And while he, in a way, scolded Europe, he once again shifted the goalpost from America to India and China, blaming the two countries for the Ukraine war. Listen to this. We'll get to that statement in just a bit. In fact, we're shifting focus now to a Gravitas special. Former Indian cricketer and World Cup winner Yuvraj Singh is the latest star facing the Enforcement Directorate, ED, in connection with a high-profile online betting app probe. And this comes after former teammates Robin Uthappa, Suresh Raina, Shikhar Dhawan were questioned by the probe agency. Let's just tell you first about the case and have a look at what these celebrities are being probed for exactly. At the center of this storm is an illegal online betting platform that's been banned in India. The agency is investigating how these cricketers were recruited to promote the app and how much they were paid for these promotions. The ED wants to trace the money trail, who approached them, how they were compensated, and whether any taxes were evaded. Now, these cricketers in question are believed to have acted as promoters and brand ambassadors for the app. They were reportedly paid to endorse and promote the platform to their massive followings. Let's just talk numbers now. India's online betting market is reportedly valued at a massive $100 billion US, with a staggering 220 million users. And according to a 2023 report by the India Change Forum, this was not just a big market, it was a booming one, growing at 30% per year. India-Pakistan cricket matches are among the most betted on sports events, with billions of dollars globally during these high-stakes encounters. These cricketers who were on the field during some of the most intense India-Pakistan matches are now under scrutiny for their alleged role in promoting this illegal betting app. The Indian government has stepped up action to fight this menace, and the Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act, passed in 2025, bans online betting and imposes strict penalties for violations. The Enforcement Directorate has widened its net in this online betting case, and it's no longer just about cricketers. Actor Sonu Sood has been summoned to appear before the agency. Urvashi Rotela, brand ambassador for the app in India, has also been called for questioning, though she failed to appear on the first notice. Former Member of Parliament and actress Mimi Chakrabarti has already been questioned, and popular Bengali actor Ankush Hazra also has faced the ED in Delhi. Why does Donald Trump seem to hate Tylenol? We are asking that question because on September 22nd, the US president launched a new offensive, this time against a common pain reliever called Tylenol. In fact, he told pregnant women to avoid Tylenol, claiming that the painkiller could be linked to autism. But here's the issue. He made the statement without actually giving out evidence. He did not cite science. He simply said this. Millions were listening.
Since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good.
The President of the United States of America seeming to give unwarranted medical advice like a qualified medical doctor without any proof. He is telling pregnant women to tough it out rather than take Tylenol. Not surprisingly, experts, pediatrics, autism fields immediately expressed alarm over the claims. While a number of studies have shown a possible association between Tylenol and autism, others have not. None have proved causation. Medical experts, including the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, saying that Tylenol is safe to take during pregnancy in consultation with a doctor. Now, this is not the first time that Donald Trump has made such medical statements seeming to be unsubstantiated. Remember, in his first term itself, he encouraged Americans to try unproven treatments for COVID-19. We all remember how that went down. Donald Trump is no doctor, last time we checked. Yet, here we are all over again. Trump, the president of the US, once more making medical claims, giving out medical advice with zero concern, it seems, for the consequences of his words and statements.
Trump's administration seemed to have misunderstood the available evidence. We do not find support that paracetamol in pregnancy would cause autism. I think that this is an alarming message, and it's an ill-backed message.
And as for why Trump is pushing this, just to understand that, we need to first understand what research so far actually says. The findings have been mixed, not exactly conclusive. One study in the year 2008 did find some association between Tylenol use in infants and autism. But the finding was not definitive, and researchers called for more analysis. Then, in 2019, a Johns Hopkins study pointed to a possible link in the womb. But a massive study in 2024 of 2.5 million siblings born in Sweden over 25 years found no increased risk of autism whatsoever. And earlier this year itself, a review of 46 previous studies said that maybe there is an association, but gave no proof of causation. Even Tylenol's maker has cited independent science that says there is no causal link between the ingredient in Tylenol and autism. Now, autism, having rates of autism diagnosis, have the rates of the diagnosis increased? In short, yes. Diagnoses have risen sharply in the US. In 2024, a study found that autism diagnosis rate increased by 175% in over a decade, to be exact. But here's why the definition of autism was broadened in the 1990s to also include Asperger's. Diagnostic testing expanded, catching cases in teens and young adults, and not just children. And today, in 2022, 1 in 31 8-year-olds in America were diagnosed with autism. Boys 3 times more than girls, by the way. And that's not Tylenol. That just basically means better detection. And now here's the danger when it comes to Donald Trump's claims. Doctors actually recommend the ingredient, acetaminophen, for pregnant women. The lowest effective dose for the shortest period of time for many. It is the only way to treat those issues that pregnant women should avoid taking drugs for. Why is that? Because alternatives can cause kidney damage in the unborn child and lower amniotic fluid. In fact, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists saying that the ingredient acetaminophen is one of the only safe pain relievers for pregnant women, and patients should not be frightened away from taking the drug. And the real threat is not Tylenol, it's fever itself. A high fever in pregnancy basically raises the risks of miscarriage, even fatal birth defects. So when Trump tells women to just quote unquote tough it out, what he's really doing is putting lives at risk in a way. So here we are, a drug trusted for decades, the only safe painkiller for pregnant women, it seems, suddenly under political attack, not by scientists, not by doctors, but by President Trump and his team of political loyalists. So the big question still hanging in the air, why does Trump seem to hate Tylenol? Is it about science or is it about politics? Nearly 40 hours after the airstrikes carried out by the Pakistan Air Force in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Tira Valley claimed the lives of at least 30 civilians, including women and children, no official statement that has come from the Pakistani establishment about this tragedy, even as anger continues to mount in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The Speaker of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Assembly on social media has said that these civilian deaths reveal just how vulnerable ordinary people remain, urging for a fair investigation, immediate relief, compensation, and rehabilitation for the affected families. Also warning, and I'm quoting here, when the blood of our own people is made so cheap and bombs are dropped on them, it is a fire that can engulf everyone, quote unquote. The Provincial Assembly member, Abdul Ghani Afridi, visited the site of the bombing and called the tragedy a slap in the face of humanity that shook the conscience of the entire region. Yet this incident in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has produced little to no public uproar in Pakistan, especially when compared to similar events in other provinces like Punjab or Sindh, where any civilian incident typically triggers widespread protests, national media scrutiny, political backlash. In such provinces, operations that harm civilians, especially by the Pakistani establishment itself, usually force rapid responses from both the government and the opposition, leading to the question, would the response have been the same if there were bombs dropped on civilians in Punjab, for example? But in contrast, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa continues to receive silence in a way, and this pattern raises serious questions. Are people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa treated differently by the state than those in other parts? And the Pakistani government reporting, in fact, the Pakistan government report suggesting. This report from Pakistan's National Commission for Human Rights from last year stating that Pashtun and Baloch communities in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan regularly report underrepresentation, economic neglect, human rights violations, including enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. And there is historical context to this. Since independence, the Pakistani state has often regarded the frontier regions like Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, then known as Northwest Frontier Province, and Balochistan as peripheries. Investment in infrastructure, education, political power, even basic services lagged. And decades of conflict, military operations, insurgency have deepened the distrust. And when tragedy strikes these areas, the national reaction often remains muted. Another key point to note here is that Pakistan was originally created as a country of provinces with autonomy, but it quickly moved towards centralization, which has had major repercussions for the country. West Pakistan's refusal to share power with the larger East Pakistan led to the one unit scheme in the year 1955, fueling resentment, and one of the many key factors leading to Bangladesh's creation in 1971. And over time, this centralization has resulted in Punjabi dominance in Pakistan's power structure, leaving smaller provinces marginalized. So the bigger question still is, will this airstrike in Tara Valley be another pass in silence? Or will there be any kind of accountability and justice? History and recent events painting a grim picture. It's the entire world versus Israel on the Gaza war in a way. The Trump administration has become increasingly isolated in its position on Israel's war in Gaza, as Britain, Canada, Australia, Portugal, France, Belgium and Monaco have all recognized the state of Palestine, a move born out of frustration over Israel's conduct in the war. The decision aligning these Western countries with more than 140 other countries also backing Palestinians' aspiration to forge an independent homeland from the occupied territories. And as per the latest count, at least 151 countries out of 193 UN members now recognize the state of Palestine. 6 European nations added their names to that list with statements at the UN. The day before, the United Kingdom and Canada, remember, became the first G7 countries to make such a recognition, with Australia and Portugal also following suit. Russia, alongside all Arab countries, almost all African and Latin American states, and most Asian nations, including India and China, already recognize Palestinian statehood. As more and more countries recognize Palestinian statehood, Prime Minister Netanyahu is preparing his country for, in his words, a kind of isolation that could last for years. For the first time last week, Netanyahu conceded that international outrage over how Israel is waging the war in Gaza is turning Israel into a pariah. The annual United Nations General Assembly in New York is proof, in fact. But here's the cold, hard truth. While Netanyahu acknowledges Israel's growing isolation, he has used it as an opportunity to call on Israel's arm makers to step up their readiness. He has asked them to strengthen Israel's independent weapons industries so the country has arms independence. In fact, it's a reality. Israel and its arms makers have long produced some of the most cutting-edge weapons technology, and those weapons have been sold to countries around the world. But as international criticism of the war in Gaza escalates, Israel risks losing its position in some of those markets. And last week itself, Spain annulled hundreds of millions worth of orders for battlefield weapons made by Israeli companies. For now, the Israeli Ministry of Defense has reported $14.7 billion in export sales in 2024. Which is a 13% increase over the previous year. More than half of its defense deals were made with European countries. Israel's multi-billion-dollar arms industry sales are at a record high, in part because their weaponry is known as battle-tested. Israel's past 2 years of the war in Gaza, as well as operations in Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, have all helped solidify Israel's standing as a leading global arms supplier. The Arrow missile interceptor, made by Israeli arms manufacturer Israel Aerospace Industries, successfully intercepted Iranian ballistic missiles at high altitude during the 12-day conflict over the summer. And Israeli-made reactor armor also used routinely on IDF tanks and battle vehicles operating inside Gaza. And then there is the Israeli variant of the US origin F-35. It's now drawing attention to Israeli designed upgrades. Still, the boom may be ebbing as the war in Gaza drags on and on. It becomes more and more of a problem in a way. Around the world, ordinary citizens are protesting and asking their governments to do more to pressure Israel and stop its war on Gaza. Just today in Paris, people gathered once again to show solidarity with the Palestinians in Gaza. In the UK, the British government last year suspended around 30 arms export sales to Israel, but exempted components for F-35 aircraft. The British government also banned Israeli government officials from attending the London Arms Fair. The Israeli government had slammed the decision, calling it a deliberate and regrettable act of discrimination. But Israel is facing similar moves from a number of its allies. This summer, the French government also shut down stands for major Israeli arms companies. Following Israel's recent strike on Hamas leaders in Doha, the UAE has also banned the Israeli government and defense companies from their Dubai Air Show, which is scheduled for November. So the way things stand right now, Israel can afford to keep fighting the war in Gaza, but the cost for Israel continues to go up. And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is coming up for you on the show tonight. We're getting you the latest from India's Kolkata, with the city grinding to a halt with heavy rainfall triggering widespread flooding. The AI race is heating up. In fact, we tell you about a major deal that could reshape that race. You don't want to miss this. This is coming up in just a bit. Can you decode the mind of a genius? We tell you how Chinese scientists are hoping to give it a try. All this and more coming up. Life in Kolkata came to a near standstill as intense overnight rainfall triggered widespread flooding, bringing the city to a grinding halt. 8 people have lost their lives due to rain-related incidents. Our next report getting you the complete story.
Heavy rain brought Kolkata to a near standstill. Streets flooded, trains and metros halted. Daily life at the City of Joy was suddenly put on hold. Several neighborhoods submerged, streets turned into rivers in just few hours. The flooding took a heartbreaking toll, with lives lost, including several from tragic electrocutions. Families across the city are mourning as dangerous waterlogging spreads. Grim scenes were also seen at the airport, where frustrated travelers faced a massive challenge. More than 100 flights were cancelled or delayed. From flooded roads to terminals, the struggle was real. With Durga Puja celebrations underway, organizers are racing to shield their months-long work from being washed away by the relentless rain. But despite the storm, Kolkata is showing its true strength.
The City of Joy has turned into the city of water. It was raining cats and dogs last night. From 12 in the midnight till 5 in the morning, it was raining heavily, very heavily. And the result is actually very devastating. 8 people have lost their lives due to electrocution. The Kolkata mayor has confirmed it, and Kolkata mayor is keeping a close watch on the entire situation in the whole city, and they are trying to make things sorted, trying to restore the peace among people. The hospitals are unable to function properly due to waterlogging. The other sectors are having the same problems. The people who have come out in the streets today are facing huge difficulty due to traffic problems.
A landmark deal is likely to reshape the artificial intelligence race. Nvidia has agreed to invest as much as $100 billion in OpenAI, while also supplying the company with its most advanced data center chips. In fact, this deal tying together two of the most powerful forces in AI and signaling a major shift in the balance of power across the tech industry. According to reports, for Nvidia, this move secures more than just revenue. It gives the world's leading chipmaker a direct financial link to OpenAI. And for OpenAI, the deal provides both capital and also guaranteed access to the computing infrastructure. That gives a major advantage against its rivals. The company is saying that they plan to deploy at least 10 gigawatts of Nvidia systems for OpenAI. Just for context here, that's enough power to match the electricity consumption of over 8 million American homes. 8 million. And deliveries of hardware expected to begin in 2026 on Nvidia's upcoming Vera Rubin platform. But the implications extend far beyond hardware. According to reports, the partnership could further push Nvidia's dominance in AI chips while tightening OpenAI's grip on the software side. And together, they could form a link that could make it harder for competitors. However, the scale of Nvidia's investment could also potentially attract antitrust scrutiny, as per reports, because just last year, the US Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission cleared the path for antitrust probes into the influence of Microsoft, Nvidia, and OpenAI. And this latest move also fits into a broader trend of consolidation in artificial intelligence. Microsoft has poured billions into OpenAI since 2019. Nvidia has deepened its ties across the sector, recently striking deals with Intel and supporting multi-billion-dollar funding rounds. So the bottom line here is that this agreement could reshape incentives across the AI economy. What looks like a simple agreement may in time define just who controls the future of AI. India is taking a serious look at Russia's Su-57 stealth fighter jets. At least 2 squadrons could be on the table, and New Delhi reportedly is weighing a Russian proposal to manufacture them in India, just as it did earlier with the MiGs and the Su-30 MKI. In fact, if this plan gets approval, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited would reportedly partner with Russia's Sukhoi Bureau to assemble these advanced aircraft on Indian soil. This comes even as India continues to develop its own advanced medium combat aircraft, expected to enter service around 2035. According to reports, the deal could potentially unfold in a hybrid way. 2 squadrons may arrive directly from Russia, while another 3 to 5 could roll out of HAL's Nashik facility. Both sides already reportedly share a working relationship, making joint production more feasible. The discussions are still in an early stage, reportedly, but the timing is significant. While the Su-57 may not tick every box of a traditional 5th generation fighter, it does match India's immediate operational needs, which is also linked to regional developments. Reports suggesting China is offering its J-31 stealth fighter to Pakistan. The Su-57 provides an edge, not through stealth alone, but through its range, payload, weapons capabilities. One standout feature is its ability to deploy the R-37M missile with a reach beyond 300 kilometers. It gives the Indian Air Force beyond visual range firepower, capable of neutralizing threats long before they come close. The Su-57 can also carry the Kinzhal hypersonic missile, designed for high-value targets, adding precision and speed to India's strike options. Even with limited stealth, the Su-57 is built for long-range operations. Its large weapons bay and extended reach make it a strong platform for deep strike missions. The Russian fighter jet could potentially complement India's existing Rafale and Su-30 MKI squadrons, focusing specifically on long-range strike roles. The acquisition could reportedly serve as a stopgap option. That is, until India's indigenous program matures. It's important to note here that India walked away from the Su-57 project with Russia back in 2018, reportedly, over costs and other related concerns. But for now, the proposal remains under review, reportedly. Switching gears for now, Pakistan cricket is plunging into crisis. Hammered on the pitch, humiliated off it, cricketing legend Imran Khan has unleashed brutal fire on the country's team, its bosses and the generals running the show. The fallout is more than just about sport. It's an indictment of the system itself. Pakistan's only World Cup winning captain and former Prime Minister Imran Khan's satirical firestorm from jail has left the PCB, the army and the team itself in ashes. Once feared for raw pace and unpredictable brilliance, Pakistan cricket is now known only for humiliation. They could not go past the group stage in the Champions Trophy. Pakistan were the hosts of that ICC tournament, remember. In last year's T20 World Cup as well, their journey ended in the group stage. And now India has thrashed them in back-to-back Asia Cup encounters, exposing a team that once lifted the 1992 World Cup, but today cannot seem to lift its own morale. Speaking through his sister, Alima Khan, Imran Khan mocked the Pakistan Cricket Board chairman and the army chief. Listen to this.
पाकिस्तान ने इंडिया को 10 विकेटों से हराया था। यही पाकिस्तान की टीम थी, मजबूत थी और कॉन्फिडेंट थी। अब उन्होंने कहा एक ही तरीका है मैच जीतने का, ये मैं आपको मैसेज दे देती हूँ। उन्होंने कहा एक तरीका ये है कि ओपनिंग बैट्समैन हो आसिम मुनीर और हुसैन नकवी, और जो अंपायर्स हो वो हो सिकंदर सिकंदर सुल्तान एक तरफ अंपायर हो और दूसरी तरफ काजी फैज ईसा हो, और जो थर्ड अंपायर हो वो डोगट साहब हो।
That brutal message, let them open the batting if Pakistan want to win against India, has gone viral in fact. The jailed former Pakistan Prime Minister did not stop there. He added that former Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Isa and Election Commissioner Sikandar Sultan Raja should serve as umpires to make the match easier for Pakistan. A punchline that doubles up as an indictment of Pakistan's politics and cricket in one breath. And the sting of those words coming after India, led by Surya Kumar Yadav, dismantled Pakistan in two one-sided contests. The so-called Men in Green offered no fight, no pride, no plan. Instead, headlines were grabbed by their conduct. Fast bowler Haris Rauf sparked outrage with a wild 6-0 gesture at Indian fans during the fiery clash, a gesture that summed up the frustration of a team collapsing under pressure, more remembered for antics than cricket. The state of Pakistan cricket mirroring its politics, chaotic, directionless, run by men with power but no plan. Fans are furious. Legends stand embarrassed. And the world is watching a proud cricketing nation crumble in full public view. Imran Khan's roast is more than just satire. It's a wake-up call. Pakistan cricket is on life support, and the people running it are making sure the patient does not recover, it seems. The Asia Cup defeats have dragged the curtain back on an empire of mismanagement, arrogance, lost pride. Tonight, a nation mourns not just the loss to India, but the erosion of its dignity and the hollowing out of what cricket actually once meant. Russia is moving fast to develop its own satellite internet service that could rival Elon Musk's Starlink. Roscosmos, Russia's space agency, is pushing forward at a rapid pace. It aims to launch a new constellation of low Earth orbit satellites that are designed to deliver broadband internet across the world. Dmitry Bakanov, who is the newly appointed head of Roscosmos, shared this update during an interview on Russian TV. He revealed that test satellites are already in orbit and the country is modifying its production models to meet this ambitious goal. Now, Starlink is no small competitor with more than 8,000 satellites in orbit. It has become the world's largest satellite network. It is offering critical internet service in some of the most remote and hard-to-reach parts. Bakanov admitted that Roscosmos had some catching up to do. Previously, they missed out on early opportunities to collaborate with Musk. In fact, Russia's space officials famously dismissed Musk back in 2002 when he tried to buy a missile for space launches. But now Russia is determined to turn the page. Bakanov emphasized that the country is moving away from the inertia of the past and working hard to bring in fresh talent and ideas. He even reflected on the lessons learned from the failed Luna 25 mission, which tragically crashed during its moon landing attempt last year. Despite the setbacks, the focus is clear. Russia is doubling down on its space program and aims to make up ground in this new frontier of satellite internet. The Soviet Union spooked the West in the early years of the space race by being the first to launch a satellite to orbit the Earth with its Sputnik 1 in 1957. Soviet cosmonaut becoming the first man to travel into space in the year 1961. But after the 1991 collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia's space program grappled with massive funding shortages, corruption, complaints from the young engineers about poor management. The competition with Starlink is fierce, but Roscosmos is pushing ahead, motivated not just by the need to keep up with SpaceX, but to restore Russia's legacy as a leader in space. The big question still is, are we staring at a renewed space war between the US and Russia?
20 секунд. Давление в камерах. Есть запуск двигателя.
China's soybean imports hit a new record in August, and this is stinging the US because most of those soybeans did not come from the US but from Brazil. Can this be seen as another blow for President Trump and his trade policies is the immediate question. China's need to hedge against potential trade disruptions has pushed it to rely more on South America. In fact, Brazil now provides a staggering 85% of the soybean China buys. And this is a direct result of the ongoing trade tensions between Beijing and Washington. Last month, China imported over 12 million tons of soybeans, with Brazil supplying more than 10 million tons. That's a 2.4% increase from last year. In fact, this marks China's fourth consecutive month of record soybean purchases. As the country works to secure its food supply ahead of the US harvest season, China's imports from Brazil grew by 2.4% year on year, with Brazil now firmly in the driver's seat as it provides more than 70% of China's soybean needs. The US, meanwhile, is left with just a small share of China's soybean market. In August, only 227,000 tons of soybean bought from American growers, which is just a fraction of China's total purchases. And with the trade talks between the two sides still at a deadlock in a way, US soybeans largely have been priced out of the market. So as the trade war continues to reshape the global markets, it's also clear that Brazil is stepping into a bigger role, which is leaving the US and its farmers struggling to regain their foothold. And with China pushing ahead with its South American strategy, it will be interesting to see how the US responds in the coming months. But for now, it seems that Brazil has the upper hand in the soybean race. What if you were told that secrets of Albert Einstein's brilliance were still hidden in the folds of his brain and are waiting for modern science to catch up? Let's tell you what this is about. Scientists in China have developed a powerful new technology that could one day help us study the brain of Albert Einstein, who passed away nearly 70 years ago. The technology basically allows the researchers to study old or damaged biological samples, including tissues that were not stored in perfect condition. That kind of analysis was very difficult or even impossible until now. Einstein's brain was preserved after his death in 1955. It was cut into 240 pieces and placed on microscope slides. But because the preservation methods used back then were not as advanced as they are today, studying his brain at a detailed level has been a big challenge. And now with this new technique, scientists say it might be possible, though there are still many difficulties out there. The same technology is already helping scientists understand old cancer samples. It can show where the cancer cells are, showing how the immune system reacts, and also figure out what kind of cells are dying. So while studying Einstein's brain may still be a dream, this tool is already helping modern medicine, and who knows, in the future, it might even help us understand what makes a genius. Moving on for now, panic blazing through social media as prophecies of a September 23 apocalypse gripped millions. Some quit jobs, others sold off their cars to brace for this so-called final flight. But what's behind this doomsday hysteria really? Our next report telling you.
The internet is alive with dread and excitement. TikTok explodes with claims that the world will end on September 23. The hashtag #RaptureRock surges, spreading visions of a day when believers soar to heaven. The man behind the panic is South African preacher Joshua Malakela, who insists he saw Jesus announce the rapture for September 23 to 24, timed with the Jewish New Year and a divine timetable. The whispers began in the digital darkness, a prophecy spreading like wildfire, a chilling claim amplified across TikTok and X. The mystique was irresistible, preying on a generation's fears of a world teetering on the edge. The prophecy, linked to ancient biblical texts and a new celestial alignment, seemed to offer a terrifying certainty in an uncertain world. The tension was palpable. What would happen when the sun rose and the world still turned? What about the millions who had given up everything for this moment? The truth, as it always is with these claims, is far less dramatic. This is not an act of God, but a viral hoax, a lie that has haunted humanity for centuries. It's a cycle of hope and despair, proving that while humanity may yearn for a divine intervention, the real danger is not from the heavens, but from the fear that spreads right here on Earth. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our next story is about cricket, more specifically cricket bats. Could the future look different for cricket bats? Let's tell you about a mission, a man batting for change. And the question also is, could bats be made from a less traditional source? We are talking about bamboo, basically a more affordable alternative developed by researchers at Cambridge University and backed by British research and innovation. According to a report in The Times, researchers at Cambridge University have won government funding to develop bats fashioned not from English willow, but bamboo. What's behind this game-changing move, you ask? The goal basically is to have a cheaper and also a more sustainable alternative. But why bamboo? It could be way cheaper. There is, of course, demand for less expensive equipment. And the thing also is supplies of willow are not exactly able to match up. The reason, of course, lies in the course of nature itself and how long trees take to mature, so on and so forth. And according to that report in The Times, much of the wood that is harvested now fails quality controls. Let's tell you about the Cambridge team's bat. To put it simply, according to the report, it is made from laminated bamboo. What else is known about it? The thin layers are held together using glue, but there are challenges when it comes to bamboo bats. Basically, to do with if the bamboo bats are not made well, but the new bamboo versions have been modified. In other words, the result, according to the report, is that they are lighter, thinner, and also made to perform no better than the bats already in use. But speaking of hurdles, one of them is to do with how bamboo is denser, which means and which demands that bats must be cleverly, sharply reshaped so that they are not very heavy. They have to be used for batting after all. So they cannot be extremely heavy. Of course, the performance of a bat also relies on several parameters. The work involves combining bamboo with software capable of generating these bats tailored to individual preferences. Darshil Shah of Cambridge's Centre for Natural Material Innovation is promoting bamboo as the ingredient for a new generation of cricket bats. According to the MCC's laws of cricket, the bat must be made of wood. Bamboo is a grass, remember, not a wood. Darshil Shah claiming that apart from being more plentiful, bamboo is also more efficient when it comes to transferring the energy from the batsman to the ball, according to the report. So could this be the beginning of a new era, is the question. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the